The moderator. Good afternoon. My name is Sirifo Jawara, presenting on behalf of Group 1. Our case scenario is as follows. It's about trust building. The narrative goes this way. A research team from a national university returns to a coastal community to conduct a maternal child health study. 5 years earlier, another NGO collected community data and promised to return with results and bring development partners. None of these commitments were fulfilled. Committee members feel used, saying, "You take our studies to get money abroad." Youth groups express frustration that outsiders only visit when they want data, but never when the community needs solutions. Elders hesitate to grant approval for the new study. So that's the case scenario. And then there are a little questions that follow that the group brainstorm to answer together. So as you already heard about the case, it's about trust building in the community. A research conducted with a lot of promises, after which none of those promises were fulfilled. So committee members feel hesitated to participate in any new research again. And that's the situation that we find ourselves. So there are a number of questions that we attempt to answer as a group. First, the first question that the group looked at was to identify specific sources of mistrust in the community, including past unfulfilled commitments and patterns of extractive research. So the group looked at it together and came up with the following points. One, there were lack of adequate information. Okay? Information sharing was not adequate, and that was found as one of the issues that lead to the mistrust. And there were failed promises. Remember, this particular NGO promised the community with so many things, after which they never fulfill any of those promises. And there was lack of transparency from the word go. Okay, there wasn't adequate transparency, and of course, where there is no transparency, that only gives rise to what mistrust. Unclear intention on the use of research data. From the word go, there wasn't any clear intention as to how the research data will be used. That is why rumors start generating that those data must have been used to generate money abroad. And there was, of course, limited community involvement. So from the cases that we had in the morning, if there were adequate community engagement, perhaps we wouldn't have arrived to this point here, because it would have been bottom-up approach instead of the top-bottom approach. So we went forward to also look at the second question that was presented to us, that is to discuss how this negative past research experience shape current attitudes, skepticism, the unwillingness to participate in the new studies. Of course, where community experience or community has such a bad experience, one may always understand that when new faces come to do similar research, there will be a lot of hesitancy, there will be a lot of skepticism as to whether they should participate or not. So some of the things that we came across was that there was community hesitancy in the research. Okay, because already they were full once and they don't want to be full again. So that's why there is a lot of hesitancy in the approach. And there's also unwillingness to participate. Okay, because they were full to participate with all the promises, even the data or the results wasn't shared with them. So they don't know what is going to be the outcome of that result. So there is that unwillingness to participate this time around. And of course, it also what gives rise what rumor spreading. That is why we hear that information or that data must have been used to generate money elsewhere. These are rumors. It may not necessarily be the fact, but where there is no adequate information, rumors, of course, give rise. So we went further to look at the third question, which has to do with to propose concrete steps the new research team should take before beginning the study to build the trust. This is where the bone of contention even lies, because now there's already a mistrust in the community. What do we do to build that trust for you to be able to move on? One, you need to provide binding partnership between researchers and then the community. Okay. And again, you also need to what, first even investigate what sort of approaches were used by the previous researchers. Because unless you know the approaches that they use before you also fall victim again. So there is a need for to investigate approaches used by the previous researchers to avoid repeating similar mistakes again. Disclosure of research procedures and expectations. Okay, there has to be a full disclosure as to what the research expect and what are some of the expectations, so that the committee may not have that belief that there are benefits that are awaiting them only for the research to be concluded and they didn't receive any such benefits at the end. Understanding the culture of the community to gain their trust. Okay, having to understand the community culture will also help one to what gain the trust of the community, because every community there are ways and means in which you need to what get into the community. If you fail to follow those layout protocols, you are likely going to what fail in gaining the trust of the community again. So the fourth aspect is outline strategies for maintaining trust and ensuring transparent communication throughout the research process from design toward dissemination. And there we see what establish a community-based research center. This will be comprised of community members, of course, where they are seeing their own faces. That hesitancy, that mistrust would have been reduced significantly. Provide ongoing feedback throughout the research. There is also a need to be given ongoing feedback, at least to clear any room for what rumor generation. Identify and involve the influential community members to guide the research process. This is also another very important aspect that needs to be looked into. Ah. Okay.
Every group should pick out an actionable item. So if you had to pick one, putting you on the spot, which one would you pick?
Yes, that one is already clear. Full participation of the community throughout the research process.
Full participation
Of the community throughout the research process.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to say, easier said than done. So how are you going to make sure that there's full participation in the next research project? What needs to be done to, I mean, it's, one could say there should be full participation, but what actionable item will ensure that? I mean, how do you make sure that's going to happen?
What mechanisms will you put in place to make sure that there is full participation?
Well, I believe in this case, because there is already that problem that is identified, and committee members are already feeling hesitance to participate this time around. So having to involve them from the
Right.
yes, having to involve them
How do you empower them?
by providing adequate information to them, because information itself is a means of empowering individuals.
Okay, well, something to, I don't think Dr. Charles agrees with you, but anyway, I think that we need to, I agree with the information, but information by itself is not enough, because you could give information, but because of power dynamics, that prevents the community from full participation. So we have to think of ways to empower the community. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much.
I am Maria Boja, representative of Group 2. Our case read as follows. Committee meeting for maternal health study held at the Bantaba, where mainly men speak loud openly. Women, especially newly married, sit quietly at the edge, fearing cultural criticism if they speak publicly. Researchers interpret their silence as agreement on a way women prefer separate women-only space to speak freely. This leads to an incomplete understanding of true community perspectives. So key issues in this case are gender power dynamic, misinterpretation of silence, limited safe space. So basically our case is about community inclusivity, that is having everybody on board to make sure that their voices are heard and not being underrepresented. So question goes as follows. Identify key barriers to participation in this case, especially for women and youth. For example, barriers to voice, representation, safety, and access. I and my group have a discussion around that, and we come up with these barriers, that is cultural barriers. Sometimes, in certain communities, you need to understand what are some of the things you need to make sure that you have the entry points, know what they want, know what they need before getting to the communities. Because if you don't do that, as the researchers did here, they went into the communities, just have a discussion with the Bantaba and at the Bantaba, and then from there, nothing else was done. So for that case, they need to first have a prior contact with the community, maybe the VDCs, to make sure that at least they know what they need to do before getting to the communities. Number 2 goes as follows. What other special interest groups might be prevented for participating equitably? So not only women in this community might be prevented from participation, but even children and communities that have these caste systems. Because we've seen that in certain communities, even slaves and non-slaves don't enter the same vehicle. If slaves are seated at one place, the other royals will be seated at the other place. So their voices might not be represented. Their voices will not be represented in the sense that something will be affecting them, but as a result of that caste system they have in their settings, they might not be able to at least give the researchers what they need. So the researchers need to look a lot into that. So what are the ethical and practical considerations for fairly compensating community members for their time and expertise? How does this differ from simply reimbursing costs? We as a group also have a discussion around that, and we came up with this point, that is verbal appreciation. Sometimes you don't need to compensate people, because if you do so much of compensation, it serves as a form of undue inducement, in the sense that anytime I hear Gamrempi have a program, I will know I'll receive money from there, let me rush and go. You're not even there for the purpose anymore. What is taking you is because of the finance. That is why you are there. So number 2 is, if you are to even reimburse, you also need to make sure that it's in line with the ethical standards. That is, let's say you paid fare from home. Upon reaching here, they said, oh, we've wasted a lot of your time. Can we give you $50 or $100? It is reasonable, but not something that will serve as a form of undue inducement. Discuss how safe and equitable engagement spaces can be created. That is one. Researchers should not be judgmental. Don't just go to a community. Okay, we don't allow suits in this room. Oh, what sort of people are you? Do not have to behave like that. You have to adjust to their norms and values. You need to make sure that they are respected, so that anywhere you go, you can easily adopt and adjust to their systems. Number 2 is non-maleficence. That is, you don't need to impose harm on the community. Go with the purpose that you are going to help them and they're going to help you. Because you're getting something from it, and every day you're going to publish that. And once that is done, implementation will be there, policy will be informed. So the next question goes as follows. Recommend structures or approaches that empower marginalized voices. That is, treating them as participants instead of partners. So we have this notion that participant, but why don't we inform them that, like, you are partners, you are a part of us now. We invite you to come over and share your insights. What are some of the problems you are facing, rather than taking the whole pre-packaged research proposal to the community and telling them that, okay, we are here, this is what we have for you, so you decide on what to do. Or we inform them, yes, this is what we have for you for the community, let's see how we go about it. No, call them over, invite them, make them feel that they are part of that research, and they will give it their all. Identify risks of misinterpretation, silence, or deference as agreement. Misinformation of issues that affects them. So, number 8, how can research teams ensure that their interaction with community members are actually respectful and inclusive? We come up with these points, that is, engage meaningfully with communities, like I mentioned prior. That is, you need to make them feel that this research is a part of them, and you are a part of the research too, so that they take ownership of the research. The other point is using community facilitators and advocates. You go to the community, you don't just go there like, Assalamu alaikum, I am here, okay, where's the alcalde and all that. No, invite key members, stakeholders of the community. Those are the VDCs, the traditional birth attendants, those that are at least health-oriented, to come over and invite the community. Okay, these are the people that came here. They want to hear your voices. They want to see what affects you, so that you can also contribute to the development of whatever they came with. What misunderstandings commonly arise due to cultural difference and how they can be avoided? That is, to be truthful in your research. Truth is the ultimate thing. Because if you're not truthful, let's say you promise the participants or the partners that, yes, after this research, we are going to bring you a borehole, or we are going to build a health facility for you. Now that is not done. What will happen? It will hinder further researches that are coming, because they'll be they're all the same. Anybody that comes, they give us fake promises. Nobody is there to at least give us something that is concrete. So thank you all for your kind attention. If you have any questions.
Relevance and community value. So our narrative is about an international consortium that proposed a genetic study on hypertension, emphasizing global scientific value. But the community, on the other hand, has immediate needs. And those immediate needs are malaria prevalence, water sanitation, and youth unemployment. So that is what the Alcalo put to them. When you come to our village, you want to do this, fine. But these are our immediate needs. We have malaria prevalence. We also have water sanitation issues, and there is a lot of unemployment in the community. Now, the key issues here are misalignment of priorities, key risk of perceived exploitation, and then the need for negotiated benefits. So when you look at here, the first one we look at is what the misaligned priorities. Now, the researcher came with a proposal, and then the committee are also having their own proposal at hand. Now, the researcher wants a genetic study on hypertension. Now, the community is telling them that our immediate problem at that point in time is what? Malaria prevalence, water sanitation, and then youth unemployment. So you can see here, when you look at these two things, there's a misalignment in the priorities because the researcher brought something that is different from what the community is facing. Now, in order for the researcher to go through with this, they need to make sure that they align their priorities. But how do they align these priorities is where the issue is. Now, when you look at here, we have identified the mismatch. So when you look at this is the mismatch. That is a genetic study, and then there is this issue that these people have to face at hand. Now, discuss whether this proposal is ethically justified, the ethical justifications. Now, we look at it. Now, inadequate community involvement in the research planning. Now, when the research was being planned, we feel that there is not enough community involvement in planning this research. And that is why there is this huge gap between the research and then the community needs. And then when you look at it also, there is irrelevance to the immediate community needs. Whatever is being brought here by the researcher is totally irrelevant to the needs of the community. So in order for these community people to succumb to the needs of this researcher, is either there is going to be a compromise at the end of the day. Either the researcher will come and tell them, one, I can do one or two things for you, and then you can allow us to do this. But if not, there is a high risk that the community might not participate in the research process. No, so we propose a way where the researcher and the community to co-define relevance. Now, here we believe that relevance in this case has to do with the compromise between the needs of the researcher and then the immediate needs of this community. Now, fine. You come and then you have, now what do? There are tools that you need to look at. There are community facilitators. When you consult them, they can be able to tell you that, yes, this is what our community needs. And this is the entry point that you need to come through. When you come through this, the community will give you this. So long as these community facilitators are not involved, then obviously this misalignment is also going to continue. So therefore, in order for them to do that, they need to make sure that there is these community facilitators give them the information they need for them to go on with the research that they want. Now, how do they? So it's either you engage the community facilitators, you bring in interviews, you engage the youth groups, or you bring questionnaires to know what the community needs, and then you try to align. We understand that sometimes these research projects are grants, and then the funds given are limited. But notwithstanding, sometimes you need to make sure that when the proposal is written, enough consultation is made so that you can be able to know what are these two things that you need to put into line so that you can move on with your research. So you identify how benefits could be negotiated. How do you negotiate these benefits? Well, what you do is simple. You make an agreement, you make consultations, you bring MOUs that are legally binding to you two people. Now, fine. Let's take, for instance, the malaria prevalence. You want to make your genetic research, fine. It is good. It's perfect. But then the issue is there is malaria prevalence. You cannot do all of this. There is honesty in what you do. Now, what you do is simple. Tell them, fine, I can provide bed nets for you. That is in prevention of what? Malaria. And then they can allow you to do one or two things in the community. Or you can do what? Provide boreholes for clean drinking water for them. Once that borehole is provided, maybe the women can use that to have gardens, wherein they can also minimize the unemployment in the community. So that can also be a way that you can compromise with the community to get what you want. So we look at what we summarize recommendations to improve relevance and value. So the recommendations here we have is what? Community involvement, you have capacity building, and then you have trust. So these are things that you need to make sure that you get what you want. So we also have the practical strategies that you can use. So you can be transparent and be clear with your goals. When you are transparent and clear with your goals, it's easy for you to get what you want. And then there is what? Community participation. You bring in the VDC, the WDCs, and then the youth groups. You involve them in whatever you do. And then the last one is capacity building for continuity. When you build this capacity, the capacity you are building is not just for anything, but to make sure that whatever you have got and then fed back to the community is being continued and then they believe in it. So far so good. This is what we have from our presentation. Maybe I left out a few things, but then.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Good afternoon. How are you all doing? All right. I think this was easy, but now that I'm here, don't worry, this is going to be supersonic. So what we have here is a scenario. So in this scenario, we have, they said, a 3 years youth resilience program yields only one academic publication, lower than expected. Yet the project empowered youth peer mentors, strengthened youth partnership, and improved communication and mental well-being. Committee members celebrate the project as a major success, while researchers struggle to justify it to the funders focused on the publication. So basically what we are trying to look at here is that a project had continued for 3 years, but after the 3 years, we realized that the community has seen improvement in the implementation or in the research process, but then later we realized that the funders did not, we are not happy about the outcome, because at the end of the day, you know, they did not receive anything but just one publication. So basically what we are looking at here, in the first question, basically we are looking at the, what did we, they said identify how different stakeholders define success in this case. So in this case, different stakeholders is talking about the community itself and also is focusing on the funder. So what we are looking at here, we said the community or the youth are saying the project actually empowered youth mentorship and also strengthened the school programs, and also it empowered communication on mental well-being. So for them, as far as the community is concerned, they have impacted on the research itself has impacted on them, because they realized the outcome of engaging amongst themselves in peer mentorship, and also they had to experience the fact that they could actually communicate their mental well-being. Now, when you look at the researchers or the funders themselves, they would actually measure success in a different perspective. Now, we said the researchers also, the project should yield more than one academic document. So for them, they're actually focused on the academic document. Remember, this is a research, and also they have their systematic process of going through the research. So what they want is the outcome for the financial resources that they've invested in it. So when you look at the success in these two different perspectives, the community have yield, but also the public, the researchers and the funders. Actually, the researchers might see that they have done a good job, but the funders might not see that they have a good job. So moving on, we look at the second discussion that we had. They said discuss whether scientific publication output captured community impact. So as far as we looked at it in a group, we group 4 discussed that when you look at it from the scientific perspective and how the research process is being initiated, we would know, or we would realize that in the eyes of the funder, this did not go well. Actually, the scientific process did not actually impact on the community, because why? There was only one publication that was given. So if it was justifiable, then that means there would be more publications to indicate that actually they've gone through a rigorous process that actually could give them or yielded them more evidence. So in our own defense, we are saying that the scientific process did not actually benefit the community itself, but just in the way of them going native, understanding the realities on the ground. We've looked at the third question that says they said propose broader success indicators in CER projects. Okay, so what we have here, number 3, is that involving the community members throughout the research process. So basically what we are saying is, if we have to propose a broader perspective or a broader solution to this, we are saying that we should involve community members throughout the research process. That is one of them. The second one is to strengthen evaluation processes to ensure that all boxes are ticked during the research and even after the research, and maybe there are some things that are left out. We looked at number 3, that is community findings to community members. After the findings are done, we make sure that the information trickles down to the community, because at the end of the day, when implementation comes, these community members are going to be the ones to help out in the implementation. So it should ensure that there is, for example, translation into languages, or maybe basic communication that the people in the community can benefit from some of these informations that have been gathered. The last one that we have here is maintaining trust. During the research process, we ensure that one of the solutions or one of the proposed thing that we could actually bring out as a group, we ensure that there should be trust between the researchers and also the communities. Just to rush through it, we have question number 4. And question number 4 indicates that identify how empowerment and partnership outcomes can be documented. How can we make sure that empowerment outcomes can be documented? So one of the things is we actually discussed that it could be through community feedbacks, but also we had other things that we already proposed, that is maybe documentaries provided can also ensure that there is documentation, because most of the time people like visual impact. So through documentation and through also media panel discussions, this could also do. Also, there should be constant engagement or forums that are created with the youth, with the community members, so that to ensure that there is sustainability in the information that is being yielded. Number 5, he said, he said, can we create a culture where research teams and community partners feel safe to openly discuss and learn from what isn't working without the blame or the loss of funding? So how do we ensure that the researchers and also the people who are funding do not lose trust amongst each other? So these are some of the things that we came with. We said number 5, that is trying to involve what? Leaders and the community members. When we involve leaders and community members, this will ensure trust, because people want to believe in what is some of the ethical behaviors, or what is some of the norms and the values of the people in a community, and the respect that is being maintained in there. So if they see their leaders in there, they will be involved. We also looked at the respecting community traditions and beliefs and cultures. These are very, very important, because these are controversial things in every community, that is beliefs, norms, and systems, and sometimes even religious and ethnographic necessities. So we look at assuring them that information would be confidential. Sometimes people also do not want to be revealed. For example, when they come, their identities can be anonymous. At the end of the day, when they're anonymous, that could maintain trust, and that could also ensure that there could be balance between the researcher and the information that they want to get, and how the information can be authentically given to them. Okay, all right, thank you.
Our topic is about community-based participation research versus community-based research. So the case study is, researchers claim their malaria study is community engaged, but actually only held a single initial meeting to announce the study. No community input shaped the research questions, data collection tools, or communication strategy. Rumors later spread online about research aims, with community members blaming the researchers for excluding them for interpretation and messaging. A woman's cooperative remarks said, "They studied us, not with us." So, number 1, guiding questions. Identify what the researchers did well and what they missed. So our group now said that they visited the community and informed them of their research. That was what they did well. What did they miss? They actually missed what? Community input on what? Research questions. They went to the community. They didn't ask the community what is their problems. What are their problems? They did not involve the community in what? Data collection tools, in their research tools, and they only had one single meeting with the community. So they were not able to identify any issue with the community. Number 2, discuss the difference between community-based participation research and community-based research. So with community-based participation research, it looks at what? Going to the community, knowing what is their issue, having several meetings with their community, identifying their problems, okay? Whilst what? Collaborating with them, coming up with what? Questions, data collection tools, involving them, making them partners, okay, in the research. Whilst in community-based research, the researchers just come, they carried out their research without involving the community at all in whatever they're doing. In every step and every level of the research, they don't involve the community at all. Number 3, place the case on a continuum from low to high participation. So the continuum participation was low because they didn't they didn't involve the community. They just came and just did a superficial initial meeting, just informing informing the community that they're about to do a study, not actually telling them what the study is about, what are their aims and objectives, what is the data collection tool is going to be about. Number 4 states, what are the warning signs of tokenistic engagement? So here, tokenistic engagement is talking about what? Superficial ways of saying that, for example, okay, I am here to do a study in your community, we're going to involve you, when in reality sense, you're not actually involving them. It's just superficial. You're just there just to say, okay, hello, how are we? We're doing a study, but you're not actually engaging them in every step of the process. Yes. So here the community members, what is it? So the community input is not reflecting in the research. There is no participation with the community. There is a communication gap. Why? Because the community don't have any idea. They don't have an idea of what the study is actually really about. And there is no power balance here. We want the researchers and the community to be at the same level, but there is no power balance here. So number 5, what specific steps can researchers take to share power meaningfully from agenda setting to data interpretation dissemination? So we involve them in every step of the way. By how? Prioritizing the community needs, inviting them during dissemination of research findings, and listening to the community feedback. What do they think about our research? And also during data communication, we also involve them. Number 6, how should decisions about data ownership, feedback of results, distribution of benefits, such as what training, funding services, are being made so that the communities feel respected and empowered? How do we empower our communities? By establishing the community board of advisory, ethical committee, which if you can have that one in the community, it will help. Involving community groups, doing capacity building by what? By training the communities, okay? We share benefits with them. And then when you also teach the community, what do? We also provide what? Trainers of trainees. Okay, so even after the research has been done, we already have trainers of trainers there that will also continue training the people in the village. So propose how to transform this study toward true co-production. So by holding several meetings with the community, how do we, by developing research question methods of data collection together, okay, by making the community a co-founder. And whilst we are doing this, what are we doing? We're trying to build a trust between the community and the researchers, okay? So by doing that, we'll see that the communities will open up and will give us the data that we need from them. Number 8, which participatory research method? For example, focus groups, community mapping, co-creation workshops work best in the Gambian settings, and why? So the group chose focus, because we believe that with focus group in our Gambian cultural settings, people will be able to hear their voice. We'll hear the voices of people that we don't usually hear their voices. Okay, if it's the youth, we'll hear their voices. If it's the those, as they said, we'll be able to hear their voices and their views. So we'll have a group of youths, and then we talk to them in a group discussion and hear their views on subjects that usually they are not heard, because of, as we know with our culture, where the elders talk, the younger ones don't actually have a voice there. Thank you all.
Time well managed.
If we have some Jolas and some Flasia, it's like the Benachin was very nice. Yeah, definitely. Yes, so greetings. My name is Babu Isar. I am here to represent Group 6. Yes, so the narrative is read. There is a vaccine awareness project recruits community mobilizers, but provides no training budget. Many mobilizers have never used tablets for data collection and feel unprepared to answer community questions. Some fear backlash if rumors spread. Youth volunteers express concern. How can we explain the vaccine if we do not fully understand it ourselves? The key issues here is 1, insufficient preparation. Number 2 is role ambiguity. And number 3 is risk of misinformation. Now, lack of preparation here, it's basically from those that are bringing the project on board. And when we talk about the role ambiguity, basically it refers to the clear rules, because if there were clear rules that was spelled out, then that means the mobilizers that are going to apply are those that are aware, those that recognize that this is the issue of this is the project, and this is what we have to implement. And the third thing is the risk of miscommunication. The risk of miscommunication mainly will come from those that are going to what? The mobilizers. So we move straight. Number one, the collection rate. It says aware the risks that are associated if those people are allowed to go and then proceed with the awareness program. And number one is because of what they lack, what they call, there is a training gap. And the training gap is what? One, inadequate knowledge of the vaccine. The mobilizers don't have the knowledge when it comes to the vaccine. Number two is basically what? Inadequate knowledge on the use of basic IT, because they have never used tablets before to collect data. And number three basically means communication skills. Some of them are afraid, they are scared to meet the community because of they have this issue of if we say something is wrong, the backlash can come back to us. So these are the issues. So question number two talks about the risks of inadequate training. If these people are allowed, if they are allowed to proceed without proper training and they are allowed to go to the communities, what will be the issue? Number one, we said inaccurate data. If you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the idea, and you are sent to go to the community to talk about vaccine awareness, one thing that is going to happen is going to be what? Inadequate data collection, because you cannot use tablet, that is one. Number two, you don't know anything about the project itself. So if you move further ahead, then there is a possibility that there is going to be what? Inadequate data. Number two, there is going to be low turnout, because what you are going to say in Fatu's compound and what you will say in Bintu's compound is not basically the same. So there is a high tendency that there is going to be what? A low turnout, because people are going to be aware that you are not sure of what you are doing. So that means basically there's going to be a low turnout. And when that happens, what is going to cause that? That is what? Miscommunication on the vaccine in the community. We go to number three. We said, what strategies can we put in place? What training mechanisms can we bring on board to make sure that these people are equipped in order to implement this type of project? We said what we are going to train them on is the topics. We have one, vaccine awareness. Number two is IT, that is the usage of tablets. Number three is communication skills. They said the duration is going to be between 2 to 3 days, between 4 to 5 days. Yes, and the hours are 2 hours, 3 hours, and at the same time 2 hours again. I'm trying to just fast track because of the time. The delivery modes are basically we are going to use projectors, we will use videos, we will use pictures, and at the same time, the most important, we will use hands-on training, because these people are going to the community. So that means they need to be ready to face the community. And how are we going to do that? We are going to have what they call a pilot project. A pilot where they go to households and meet the households, use the tablet. And if they have any error, then that means our database will be able to recognize it. And when they come back for the last training, then we will tell them that these are the mistakes so that they can adjust. Then we move to the next thing, that is how are we going to supervise them? So supervision is going to be on two folders. We will have one field supervisors, and then we have what the skilled supervisors. The skilled supervisors are those that are aware of the tool, how to use the tool. This requires the data analysts, people that are aware of the data analysis and all those things. Then we will have the field supervisors. These are individuals that are going around with them. If they have any issue, they can call their supervisors, and then the supervisors can help them through that process. Question number 4. Question number 4, it said, examine how strong the system can build long-term community capacity and strengthening future public health efforts. So how are we going to make sure that the community is aware and then it's sustainable? Because sustainability is something that is very, very, very crucial. In any project that we implement without sustainability, there's a big issue. One is to make sure there's clear information. Number two is to make sure that you improve the trust relationship between the community and then those that are doing the vaccinators. And basically, number 4 basically means documentation. To make sure that there's proper documentation. Because without proper documentation, that means if this happens again, we have to come back and organize the same training. But if there is proper documentation, then that means if it happens again, these people are already equipped, we already know people that can do it, then we just enroll them and they are able to implement this project. Allow me, sorry, ma. And the last, that is number 5. Number 5 basically says the priorities. If you are going to train them, when it comes to our priorities, what are you going to train them on? It's one, how to properly explain the issues of the vaccine. That is to make it to simplify when it comes to vaccine awareness. And number two, again, is basically the usage of tablets to make sure that they're able to use the tablets to be able to collect the data, and at the same time, the final thing is communication management and then conflict resolution. Because if you are implementing this type of projects, there is a huge tendency for conflict. If they are not able to manage conflict, then there is a possibility that there will be an issue with the data collection. So they have to know how to communicate, who to communicate to, and when to communicate. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking on behalf of Group 7, and our taxes are Sustainability 1. So the narrative goes this way. A community advisory board becomes highly active during an infectious disease project, addressing rumors, shaping recruitment, and helping with dissemination of the information. After the project ends, the CAB dissolves due to lack of funding and continuity planning. Members feel abandoned, saying we grew strong. Then they left us. Local clinic staff believe the CAB could have supported the upcoming or the future health efforts. So what stood out here, the key issues are lack of continuity, planning, missed long-term capacity building, community disappointment, and ending engagement, which harms their trust. So the questions goes like this. First, we looked at what made this committee very effective. Of course, money was there. Everyone was excited. Commitment was there because this was a new concept. And then the second part of question 1 says, what structural and other planning gaps led to the dissolution of things? Sustainability, we believe that there was no clear sustainability plan in terms of funding, in terms of roles, in terms of continuity that impacted on the committee. We also thought that because it was a new concept, maybe the recruitment process was not done properly, it was not community-centered, and then when it ended, nobody took responsibility. We also thought that this particular committee was not localized. We all can remember in the morning, someone talked about this. Maybe when the committee came, the idea of the committee came, the one who instituted identified friends and family members, and community structures that were there were not consulted, they were not involved. So going to the second question, the second question says that how could the research team have incorporated sustainability and continuity planning? And then we started asking ourselves as a group, was there any participatory research appraisal to identify the need for research for this committee's institution? Maybe there was none. And because of that, there was no TOR for these people to know their role. Maybe they were not even trained to tell them that this was a voluntary role, not a payment role, and it should be alive even after the end of the support. The still incorporation to make sure that community is involved, inclusion, where there are people like marginalized groups involved. We thought that that did not happen. So question 3 was saying that what roles should local institutions, including clinics, healthcare officials, and the like? We think that they needed to provide this particular group with training to tell them about their significance, not just during this time, but any other time, because health is an everyday thing and it doesn't stop during pandemics or emergencies. We thought that too, the community should have been trained on how to look for funds outside the support that was rendered to them. Even local or national community resource mobilization or national support from government through maybe local funds that MPs are given and ward development committees. So the other one was how can community-based organizations support? We thought that community-based organizations can bring these groups on board because most of the issues that community-based organizations do at community level have a health component. So this particular advisory board can be there for malaria, it can be there for HIV, for anything that the community needs to know, because information is power. So I'm Rosin, I may leave some things behind. So finally, what practical recommendations have we made as a group? We think that because this particular board's role is an advisory role, they may need resources.
Money to buy airtime, they have community radio, to go to people even if it is door to door. Sometimes they may need refreshment, sometimes they need transport. So what communities can do is to make sure that through their BDC fund, allocate something for this group, or they can go to community houses, each house can contribute even $1 to make sure that this committee functions. Even okay. We also think that there was no proper planning, which the teams should learn from, to make sure that institutions like the RHGs, this particular advisory committees, can be joined together, community to community, by the RHGs, so that they can use them in future activities. They can be even registered to say district, so and so district has so-and-so community advisory group. They bring them together, train them, and use them anytime. So the key thing that stood out during this case study is that communities should always have sustainability mechanisms when it comes to funding, when it comes to ownership, and when it comes to the way they choose people to be part of advisory committees. And they should let them know that this is not payable, this is service to community, like the business community or maybe institutions will see a socio-corporate responsibility for your community. And anyone can play that role. So thank you.
I'm Isa Cisse, representative of Group 8. So our topic is an example of successful community engagement, and this is the narrative. A multidisciplinary team partners with a peri-urban community to address adolescent diabetes. Before designing the study, we started hold a multiple community forums with the youth, the parents, the teachers, the religious leaders, and also the health workers. Now, the community jointly identified the priorities. The priorities are the lack of recreation space, the limited nutrition knowledge, and also financial barriers to healthy food. The community steering committee, that is CSC of youth, model group, teachers, and also market vendors, co-designed the study protocol alongside the researchers. The consent processes like the recruitment materials, the data tools, and also other steps were designed with the researchers through a developed workshop. Now, youth received training to serve as research assistants to these researchers. The mid-project feedback leads to adjusting activities based on community input. Results were shared through school assemblies, health fairs, radio broadcasts, and also they were co-authored policy briefs. Now, the CSE, the community steering committee, transitioned into a permanent community health committee from the community steering committee to a permanent community health committee. Key issues are self-powered and co-designed across all phases: capacity building and youth training, the multiple channels of community-driven disseminations, and sustainability through the CSE transition. Now, questions were, which elements in this case reflect the excellent community engagement? That is to say, what are the elements that were done to enable this excellency in the community engagement? Now, me and my excellent smart heads came together with one of those. Now, the first answer to that question, the engagement of different stakeholders in the community that was done before the study was designed. Now, it is said in the studies that when the researchers came, what they did first is they went to the community, to various centers, from the youth to the teachers to the parents, and even the market vendors. Now, that is one of the elements that made it successful. Another one is the community jointly identified their priorities. So sometimes why research may fail is because when researchers come into the community, now they go into different places, find out things. They go back. Instead of asking them more or seeking their knowledge about how to move forward, they do it for themselves. Now, this researchers still remotely, they still state and also jointly identify the priorities of this community. One of the reasons why it became successful. Now, the identification of the priorities of the community was also done at the initial stage. Now, as a researcher, if you want to do this thing well, you go step by step. Do not jump one step, do another thing, then come back and do another thing. It has to go with the steps so we can accordingly. And we have number two. Number two's question is, how do the researchers share power with the community? How do the researchers share power with the community? Our first answer is the youth receive training to serve as research assistants. Now, before researchers will go, after finding the priorities, they will go from their own team to go into the communities to give them their knowledge about it. Now, the reason why this one is different and successful is after finding the priorities, the youth, the people in that community, youth, train them, that is patience, that is being adaptive. They train people from the community and make them research assistants. Now, this is share of power. I can want to do this. Now, I look for people in your community and make them my assistant. Not like you come with your own assistant, with your own group. Now, the only thing you have to do is sit and watch you say whatever you want to say, and then we'll be like this. So if you go to certain communities where certain research fail, it's because when people come in with their whole group, people are like, why are they acting like they know everything? So for them to listen is going to be a problem. But now we have people among you from our midst, so it's going to be successful, definitely. We also have the CSC, which is the Community Steering Committee. They involve the mothers, the teachers, the market vendors to co-design the study protocol. Now, you will find out the reasons why whatever is happening in that community is happening. Then you go back because you are somebody that knows a lot about this. Then you decide, then you design whatever you want to come with, and then come and impose it on them. Now, this is the reason why this is successful is because they didn't do that. They sit with the mothers, the market vendors, just imagine, the vendors and everybody else to design the study protocol as well. Number three is, what was the cultural appropriateness and so? And that is the consent and the research tools were also developed with these people. We also have what strengthening the sustainability. Now, what strengthening the sustainability is, what strengthening the sustainability was the transition of CSE into a permanent committee. Now, the CSE, which is the Community Steering Committee, was now turned into a permanent one, that is the Health Committee. That is one. And also the results were shared in the communities of various communication channels. They went to channels through, that is, they went to schools, they went to markets, they went to different places. Now, certain people, when they are doing dissemination, okay, we did this research for a community, so they tell people at the Bantaba, whoever comes is fine. We give you the information, if you don't get it, fine. But if people don't do that, they went to schools, they went to markets, they went to radios, and they went to different places. That is why it's successful. Number 5 is saying, what lesson could apply to the other CRE, that is the research environment, community research environment projects, what other lesson could apply to them? Now, what we came up with is the unique project feedbacks that leads to the adjusting activities based on the community input. Now, you have to know your community, you have to know your audience, you have to know the people that you are dealing with for you to be able to have a successful research. We have number 6, that is the ethical vision and also self-commitment that should guide other research partners over the decades. Now, what we will leave other researchers with for the future? We came up with the core authorship of the research publications. Now, we give credit to the villages, to the community, make them feel like they have ownership. You don't just go author and just publicize it for yourself. You bring them a part of them, and then you make it successful. Now, building trust between you and the research, between the researcher and the community, during and after. It means it doesn't have to be you find information, come and give it back, then the relationship is over. It has to continue. And also being honest in the study to gain on. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, a lot to present. Yes. Any question?
I'm here to represent my group, which is group number 9. On the topic of discussion, working with, all right, thank you. On that topic of discussion, working with CABs, that is CAB, meaning Community Advisory Boards. And the narrative reads, a CAB for a positive health study is seldom asked to provide input, meeting primarily upon update CAB members rather than soliciting their perspectives. Members with low literacy levels feel intimidated and think their insights aren't technical enough. Few of their recommendations are adopted, reinforcing perception that CABs exist mainly for show. We have the key issues discussed. CAB underutilization, limited empowerment, and minimal cooperation of feedback. What we are looking at here is between the researchers, the community, and the community the CAB. What we are seeing here, if you look at the narratives, those researchers neglected the community advisory board. And we say research is meaningless and research become vague or become even if you do not involve the community itself. Because you cannot sit at the table at the offices and begin to draw and begin to put plans for the community when you are not involved, you are not there at the community level. And now the question is, identify why the CAB felt ineffective. We said these are the problems identified. Their opinion were not considered. And as a researcher, if you go to meet the community, you have to consider their own view. You don't just be a researcher thinking that you know everything all. But if you don't involve them, they're going to see themselves, which will make the research become useless. And we say it was believed to be a show, rather, as they aren't dealing with what was expected. And if you go to the community, you must tell them the goals of the research. And as I said earlier, they must be involved, they must take ownership of the research, or else it becomes meaningless. And it says discourse barriers such as literacy, confidence, and unclear role. One, if you go to the community, you have to understand the language. And language barrier become, and that's why many researchers, because they don't understand our local languages, they prefer being at a place, a hotel or whatever, to design policies. And if you make policies that does not involve the people, then it becomes a problem. And language barrier play a key role in that. Now we say ineffective communication. And now you must have that direct interaction with the people that you are representing or you are making a research for, because you cannot be elsewhere and make a research about people when they are not directly involved. Now we say their ideas were accepted, which I said earlier, and sometimes you don't, as a researcher, you don't make yourself as if you know everything all. You have to listen for the people you are making research. So they must feel involved and they must be part and parcel of the research that you are making as a researcher. Now we say lack of ownership of research done and lack of inclusiveness. And if you're not included, as I said earlier, their work become useless. And I will say lack of feedback or lack of feedback given. And sometimes this is what researchers do. When you come to the community to make research, and after the research is being done, and then you go back to where you came from, and you don't give me feedback of the research being done, I feel more inferior, and I will not be feel part as the research was important to me. So as researcher, when you make a research in a community, you must give them feedback. Like when you want to bring projects and whatever, you must tell them this social time the projects are coming. So then you must give them a feedback. And number 3 says recommend training or support that can strengthen the CBE. When we say one, you have to have a training capacity with them. We need to, as a researcher, when you go to a village or community to make research, you must have the capacity building to train community members. Now we said effective communication among the trio. This trio here, it talks about the researcher, the community advisory board, and the community itself. There must be that rapport, that communication among the three. Because if you're a researcher, you don't involve, you only involve the advisory board, you don't neglect the community, then it becomes something else. So there must be a communication among the trio to make sure that everything becomes effective. Now we say define goal for participation, fostering self-assurance. That is, you must be the confidence of the community that you are making the research for. Now we have number 4. It says propose mechanism to integrate CAP input effective. 1, outline the objective, have plan. And if you're involving the people, there must be an objective of your research project. You don't just come vehicle and try to discuss anyhow, but there must be an objective of the research. Engage key stakeholders. As I said, we have trial people involved here: the community, the researcher, and the CAP, the Community Advisory Board. All must be involved, and you have to develop a questionnaire and interviews of your research before you start the research. Now we said summarize steps to enhance CAP engagement. 1, adopt shared leadership, and here you have to make it balanced. Say a balance of power, and while you hold the responsibility, you give responsibility to the community and also the CAP. So the researcher must not take leadership of everything. You cannot go to a community and think that you know it all, but you must give role to other people to play. And now we say collaboration. You must collaborate. You have to do a lot of consultation to make sure that the research work is properly conducted. Now we said number 6, how can CAP be empowered? One we say establish real authority and influence, that is decision-making body. And you researcher don't make decision in the community. As a researcher, you must listen for the people, you must answer their needs, and you must make them feel part and parcel of the research that you are conducting. Now we say sensitization on role to play. You must sensitize them. You have to give role. Division of labor must be given to community members. Now we say provide access, resources, and compensation. Co-authorship of the research publication. As someone said, once you done with the research, this will must be part of the research. You must include them in the publication that you are making. Consistency, transparency in all engagement. Thank you very much.
Group 10. And the topic here is community engagement. And then the idea about community engagement will be narrative, or we get this by the idea from a case, which says that a researcher involved the community only at 2 points: recruitment and dissemination. Community leaders argue they should be included in the setting priorities, shape questioning, and interpreting results. A youth representative says, you involve us only when you need the respondent, not when decisions are made. Okay? So now we know that there is a gap. There is engagement is the problem. So the first question that we say is that what is the problem? Why is it the community people, the youth, are saying this? They are saying that you need us when you only need us when you get your satisfaction, when you leave us. So we are saying the problem is inadequate information, education, and communication. Maybe the researchers, this is what they lack within the youths. They fail to adequately inform them, communicate to them. And there is also enough participation. Now the community people, the youths, they don't feel participated. They don't take the ownership. That's one of the problems. And there is a community marginalization that they felt. And youth, limited youth and women involvement was also lacking. Once this is some of the problem that was identified. Now the second question was we discussed importance of engagement across the research cycle. So community engagement, in order to have a research successful, the community must be part of it. They must be involved. They must be engaged. And some of the importance are first, a strong collaboration between a researcher and a community members, a trust and transparency that it builds, a strengthening research outcome and sustainability, and preserve cultural diversity. Once the people are involved, you respect their community. And yourself as a researcher, you'll be able to adjust or learn new things. And also improve on recruitment and participation, which was the problem. And then the question 3, we say propose a comprehensive engagement plan from a design to dissemination. So we say let's just do the basic. We assess, we go to the community, we find out this is the problem, and the problem is this is the problem. This is the problem that we mentioned. The plan, what can we do? Let's say we talk to the people in the community. What are some of the barriers? What are the problems that have been happening there? Okay, do we know that we say, okay, we will do community participation. We go to them, we educate them, we do capacity building. Any problem that they mention, we see how best it can be solved. That should be well planned here. and we do the implementation and we do the evaluation. So assessment, planning, evaluation, implementation and evaluation will be our key in it. Then from there, we go for question 4, which say that identify which stakeholder should be engaged at each stage. So here, the stakeholders that we mentioned within the community are women groups, which are very important, and most of the time they are marginalized or they are not included. And we say religious leaders and local leaders and youth representative. Youth representative is a key. And then the 5, summarize a recommendation for a broad and interactive engagement. So now here, that's the question 5, huh? All right. Okay. Yes. All right, I'm mistakenly put number 4 here, but the recommendation that we said here are here. This is the recommendation we say. We should, number 1, then we identify the data collection team in the community. We should, like they said, but we should not just go and decide on our own. We just drive this. We should engage them. First of all, among the engagement that we're gonna do, we make sure that we identify a data collection. We involve them. How to, even the question, the design of the questionnaire, they should be part of it. Okay. And interpretation. Sometimes you need a translator. Maybe you are Olaf, and you go to community that speak fuller. You need someone to explain. And most of the time, when it becomes part of them, that's one of the best things that you can get. So now, dissemination even, we say community can involve in grammar. In order to disseminate information, we use within the same community. Let them take the ownership. They can create grammar. Groups are there within them that can disseminate information from where that you don't even expect it. And that's the end of our case.
Unbelievable workshop. It's the best workshop I have ever attended, so I want to thank you all very much. So, what could researchers have done to be more successful? Well, that's an easy answer. They should have attended this workshop. Now, I know there's some researchers out there. Okay. Is this going to blow up on me, or? No, I'm a little suspicious. As I said before, it would be a shame if this is the last thing we do, and things to consider, actionable points, and Satan is going to discuss that, but let me say a few things about that. One, some thoughts that other people have given me is that we have a wonderful working group here. It would be good for us to come together again, but I think that what are actionable points, and let me just say that I'm sure you all have wonderful ideas. I think in addition to the ideas that you're all going to come up now, I think we should form some kind of executive committee made up of, who knows, 10, 12 people to help implement these actionable points that will be discussed, and also come up with ideas. We're not going to conquer the world in the next 5 minutes, or maybe we will. I don't know. But I think we should have a small committee to meet and think about next steps and think about the questions you asked. what could researchers do to enhance their community engaged research efforts. So let me stop there. And
So thank you very much, Anna Prof. Let's appreciate all the groups.
Anybody who is an expert in that? Anyone who is an expert in icebreakers, guys? You are most of you here are community workers. I'm sure you have ideas. Okay, great. No. I saw you. You are the one I saw. Okay, this table. Now this table is responsible. Yes.
Okay, you said I should tell them.
But everybody should stand.
Okay,
yes, thank you. The energy.
Okay, so she was trying to explain something.
She's explaining again.
I'm going to do something easier, which is lightning and thunder. At least to press and to warm our hands and you can do some effects and sit down. So we'll go lightning. Your rub your hands together. Lightning. When I say thunder, you clap. Thunder. Lightning. Thunder. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I know you are all tired and we are running out of time. We are first of all going to talk about what is realistic within 6 months. As Prof said, we will look at actionable points. We don't only want to have a workshop and that's it, we go back home. We also want to form a committee that is going to be responsible to look into how best can we come up with, is it a policy? Whatever it is that we are trying to work towards, how best can we come with something, a document that can guide community engagement research in the Gambia, right? So, first of all, we will look at this. What must the framework achieve for community researchers, for community members, researchers, Gambian government, and the general public in general? So we are trying to work towards a framework, right? And this framework, we have to look at what is already existing. Where did I write that, Dumbuya? Sola. What is already existing that we can lean on? Like, where do we start from? All right, okay, forget about it. It's like I did not write it. So it is good. What exists that we can build on? So we are trying to come up with a framework, all right, from what we have presented here this afternoon. It shows that there is need for us to have a guiding document that can take us through this, because sometimes you go to communities, you see that one researcher is doing this style, the other researcher is doing the other style. And sometimes you go to communities as well, because another researcher came before you and they've done a particular system. When you come with a new thing or something that is even better, the community is adamant to change. So let's say a researcher had funding and they were giving per household 2,500. You came with maybe your PhD research, you don't have any funding, and people now expect you to give them that 2,005 because someone came before you and gave every household 2,005. We need to have a framework that guides us. Otherwise, people will have information that is not information at all, because it is going to be misinformation. So we need to count on something. Is there something that is existing that maybe the work we are going to do on this framework can be built on? Anyone have any idea? Is there any document? Where is the other mic? Yes, can we use the other mic to go around to see whoever wants to say anything? What can we build on? Okay.
So the reason why I was asking for comments is it's about what we call a research or a policy, whatever, and the use of higher education. So guys, research is important. So I think there's already a research policy which was with the Minister of Higher Education. So probably the team will look at that policy and see if there's any gap or where we need to But there's already what we call a research policy.
There is something that we can build on. Thank you so much. Now we talk about who needs to be involved. So we talked about Ministry of Higher Education, right? Unavoidably, eh? Who else? Which other institution? An institution, an individual? Yes? Yeah?
Science, public health research.
So those of us that don't know, call it SIAM. On the whole, it's SIAM. Okay, no problem. Ministry of Health.
Yes.
Under the Ministry of Health.
Yeah, research that.
Any other institutions? Civil society organizations, very relevant. Yes, sir. RO? Spelling? Okay. Do they fall here? Fall on the Mohas?
You think dissemination of the research findings are important, then the media.
Media. Okay. Medical Council, does it fall under Ministry of Health? Somebody said Medical Council. Medical Research. Okay. We don't need to include Medical Research Council. Yes, Auntie. I can't hear you. Ethical. The Ethics Committee. So is this answered? Who needs to be involved? Community development. Okay. Yes. Local government. LGAs. Yes. MRC. Okay. So if we've answered this, we will move on to the next point.